Hi there, I'm Chris the Comic Vet. I hope this video finds you safe and well. Well, I'm currently on my way to the Mississauga Comic Book Show. This is a great small to medium-sized comic book show. I've had the great luck of finding a few grails here over the years, and I'm hoping for the same thing again today. I'm braving the Canadian winter elements, so join me on my journey and throughout the comic book show. At the end, I'll be showing which grails I actually tried to pick up. Enjoy. Okay, Comic Army, I hope you enjoyed that walking tour of the Mississauga Comic Book Show. In case you weren't aware, Mississauga is the neighboring city to Toronto and is kind of considered a part of the Greater Toronto Area. So with that being said, I did, for the first time in a long time, hear a vendor say that he couldn't budge from a price because it's a book that he picked up during the pandemic. As we can all remember, there was a great inflation on a lot of books during that time period. A lot of those books now have really cooled down. And if you happen to pick up a few big keys during that time period, well, unless it's a major key, chances are that book has pretty much come down from that point that you picked it up at. And yeah, it was a early Wolverine appearance, and unfortunately, that book stayed with the dealer. Now, I did take a look at a lot of graded books. I was looking for any issue of the Death of Craven series from the late 80s, early 90s in a 9.8 direct edition. There were none on the floor. There was, however, a few copies of the Fantastic Four #1. There was an Amazing Fantasy 15. There was also a few copies of Batman, the first Silver Age appearance of Scarecrow, a book that I am very interested in picking up in a mid-grade. Unfortunately, it was just a little north of the budget that I was looking to spend this particular day. As I was walking around, there was a book that caught my eye, and I was kind of humming and hawing about picking it up. And eventually I went back to the dealer to take a closer look at the book. I kind of felt like this book, if I were to actually crack it, clean and press it, it actually could get a half to a 1.5 grade bump if I actually wanted to go down that road. I'm not really one for cracking slabs to get it cleaned and pressed to roll the dice again, just because in Canada you do pay a premium on currency conversion when it comes to CGC. But as a fan of the Fantastic Four, their stories were an important part of my teenage years, especially that John Byrne run. I decided to, because the book was just such a great deal, pull the trigger on a classic Fantastic Four key. In fact, it is a Stan Lee and Jack Kirby big key. And that book is the Fantastic Four, issue number 50. So I picked up the Fantastic Four 50 in a 3.0. This is the third appearance of the Silver Surfer, the second appearance of Galactus, and the first appearance of Wyatt Wingfoot. So it says here on the right side of the blue label, Silver Surfer battles Galactus, Johnny Storm goes to college, and the first appearance of Wyatt Wingfoot. It is a Stan Lee story, Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnott, cover and art. And in a 3.0, it's a nice entry-level copy of this book. Will I ever upgrade on this? I don't know. The deal would have to be just as spectacular as what this particular deal was when I picked up this book. Again, it's your typical Marvel chipping around it. The book definitely has not been cleaned and pressed, as I can see that the front cover is a little dirty and there are some spine ticks, some color breaking spine ticks. I do think it could either go to a 3.5 to possibly a 4.5. As you can see, there is some dirt on the back cover here. I do think some of this could actually be tidied up, and it is an older CGC label, as you see, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy to have this Fantastic Four big time key in my collection in an entry level 3.0. The deal was great, and I'm happy to have this, especially as someone that really enjoyed the Fantastic Four. And will this be the gateway into picking up some Fantastic Four keys? Maybe, if the deal is right. But again, there are some other books that I am hunting. But every so often, if you're a comic book collector, you know there are deals that will fall in your lap because dealers just want to move on from the book. Today is that day, and this was that book. I'm going to invite you to please make sure that you hit this like button, It'll help this video. Make sure you're subscribed. It'll help the channel. And leave a comment. Have you ever been to this con? And if you actually ever visited Ontario, Canada, is this the type of con that you think that you would enjoy? As someone that enjoys pure comic book conventions, this is a solid con. With that being said, I appreciate your time. Take care.